Happy Saturday, YouTube friends. If you happen to catch my video yesterday on getting to know your car and some of the fluids and regular positions of where they may be at in the car, I decided to nix that one because when I actually went back and did my research, I did some things that weren't correct, and I wanted to make sure that I was doing things the right way. So I'm reshooting the video for you today. I also did some changes with the resolution, so hopefully you can see that better. As you can see, you have my two number one baby girls here. I probably have more cars than I care to count, probably 6 or 7, but these are my two main drivers. My Mustang Boss 302 2012 is my main summer vehicle, and then my 99 Jeep, which I refuse to get rid of because she is an absolute beast. 215,000 miles so far, running strong, big strong V8, and so she is getting ready to get put away for the winter, and she is getting ready to get winterized to get ready to play in the snow. So anyway, what I wanted to take some time to do today is, a lot of times today we don't take the time. It used to be back in my day, I'm a Gen X, my grandfather took me out and put me underneath the hood of my car, and he taught me every part of the car, from gap and spark plugs to changing wires to changing everything. So I just really thought that it was important that these days, a lot of times, whenever the smallest thing goes wrong with our car, we just kind of take it to a mechanic without really even understanding what's going on. And, I've been with a mechanic for over 7 years, so I know, most of them are very, very honest, but not all of them are. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about a few things and try and help you not get ripped off. So first of all, let's just start with getting underneath the hood. Now, no, I will tell you, this is a Ford, so these are, you have some different things on your car than I have on mine, but a lot of the things you're going to find in the same spaces. So here if you come in on your driver's side door, you're going to see the usual jump in. You have the usual steering wheel, all that fun stuff. Sorry, don't mind me. I love my car, so I show it off every chance I get. Now, if you look down here in the left-hand corner, you're going to see a little knob or latch that says hood. That's where it all starts. So go ahead and reach in. Ladies, try not to break a nail. There we go. I made it without breaking a nail. But now that is just part one of getting the hood open. The other part is you actually have to reach in. There is a latch, and you have to undo that latch and put the hood up. Now, it used to be on some cars, and some cars still have it. Like, I know my Jeep has it. My Jeep actually has air shocks when I open the hood, that I open the hood up and it stays up by itself. Now, on the Mustang, that's not the case, and on a lot of modern cars, that's not the case either. So I'm going to come down here. It's going to be pretty hard to see. I know you can see the Mustang right there. If you look inside, pardon the dirt, she's a little dirty. There is a latch in there. It's really hard to see, so I'm going to set you down for a second while I unlatch it. But there's a latch that you're going to reach in right about here where my hand's at. See where the Mustang symbol is? It's just to the right of that. The latch is right there. You push down on it, and that actually releases the hook that holds the hood together, and that's what lifts the hood up. So hang on just a second, and we're going to get the hood open. All right, so now that I have the hood up, I can show you. Here's the front of my car. There's the front. I was showing you where the symbol was. I actually slid my hand up right here. This is the latch. You actually pull up on it. It lifts up like that, and then you can see there's a hook right here. This is the hook that actually holds the hood down. And then once it releases, this is actually what it's holding on to up there. Once that releases, you're gonna find a rod laying across the top here that you take that and you stand it up. And actually, if you look in, there's a note right there that says prop, and that's where you prop your hood up. All right, so now we have the hood open on the car. I just want to take a minute to kind of walk around the front of the car and talk about the location of some of the more important items that you need to know about as the car owner, just for basic information purposes. This is not meant for you to work on your car or anything like that. You should always have a trusted mechanic that you can go to and trust, and will be honest with you and not rip you off. But it's also important that you at least understand the basics of what your car has up front. So we're going to start around here on the driver's side, and you're going to see this little reservoir right here. This is your brake master cylinder. You should probably never ever have to touch this. However, If you're having any issues with your brakes, if you're hearing squeaking or grinding, that typically means that you need to have brake service done. You need some rotors or something else done for the brakes. However, if you are standing on your, if you notice that when you're stepping on your brakes, your brake pedal is having to go further and further to the floor in order to stop the car, that is a sign of a much more serious issue, and that is something that you should have looked at as quickly as possible. The second part I'm going to cover for me is the oil dipstick. Now, on cars, my car is a V8. Some cars are V6s or 4-cylinders where the motor is actually laid in sideways, where you can see, if I step around to the front here, you can see that my engine runs long ways front to back. On V4s, on 4-cylinders and V6s, a lot of times they're set in the middle, so you'll find your dipstick in the front end of the car. In my car, it happens to be, if you see this tiny little yellow piece right down here, that's actually my dipstick. So I'm going to set you down for a second here. I'm going to pull that out, and then the proper way of doing this, sorry, and I left my rag sitting on the ground. The proper way to do this is to take it and clean it off one time. And then after you've cleaned it off one time, and let me tell you, I've tried to do this a few times one-handed while holding a camera, and it's not so easy to do. So give me a second here. I need to get it back in. Okay, sorry about that. That was a bit of a debacle. So as you can see, I'm sliding it back in, and a lot of times when you push it in, it'll lock in a little bit. You want to make sure if it pushes in and it locks in, that when you're putting it back in, that you lock it all the way in. Now that you've taken it off once and wiped it, you want to take it out again. And I'm going to try and hold it as steady as I can, which I'm probably not going to do a very good job of it. And you can see from looking at it, it's a little low and a little dirty, so shame on me. But she is due for her oil change before she's winterized, so that will happen. But I'm also going to demonstrate while I'm here, once the car cools off a little bit, I'm going to demonstrate topping off the overflow for the antifreeze and also putting a quart of oil in the car. So now I'm going to pause again, just so you don't have to painfully try to watch me put the dipstick back in the motor. Hang on just a second. All right, hooray, that only took me a few minutes. Now, coming around, after we've looked at the master cylinder, we've checked the oil. I don't even want to go into transmissions. It used to be there was a dipstick in the car for transmission. It usually was close to the firewall. Now with transmissions, they recommend that you don't do any of that work yourself, that you bring that in. The car needs to be raised up for the transmission. Anything going on with the transmission has to be looked at by an expert, so we're gonna skip over that altogether. So again, I just want to touch on the oil. On my particular car, like I said, it's way down there, that little yellow stick down there. On your car, if it's a V8, it may very well be on a side like this. It may be back closer to the firewall. You'll have to become familiar with it. It's going to be a rounded hook. It should look pretty simple. It might even have an oil symbol on it. But if you have a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder car where the engine is manipulated sideways, you're most likely going to find the check engine pull up here in front to check your oil. So then moving right along towards the front, we've got this here. Again, this may be in a different spot in your car. This is the overflow for your coolant. So now the thing that you want to check here is there's a very clear delineation right there. It may be a little hard for you to read right there, but that's the line that my car is supposed to be at when it's cool. My car is hot right now, so I can't do anything about it. I did buy some 50/50, and I'll just show you what that looks like so you know, because everybody talks about antifreeze. Instead of using pure antifreeze, you should use antifreeze with a mix of water, or you should just buy what they call 50/50. You can pick it up obviously at O'Reilly, AutoZone, any of your local auto parts stores. That's what you're going to want to be using as your coolant. But this is another place where I've made a mistake and I need to take care of it. The cold fill range should be where my thumb is at, and you can see it's a good inch and a half lower than that. That's something that once the car cools off, I'm going to have to take care of. Now, moving along is your little windshield wiper opener. Now you're probably going to find this in the front, either on the left or the right. It could be further back in some cars, but they usually are very generous and mark it with a windshield wiper signal, so it's pretty obvious what it is. I just want to take a moment to thank the awesome people at Ford, whoever designed this setup. It takes literally a gallon, just a little less than a gallon of windshield wiper fluid, so it's always really great. I always have a bunch of bottles laying around that have about an inch worth of fluid in them. So Ford, if you hear me, the next time you do this, can you please make these reservoirs big enough to hold an entire gallon of washer fluid. Moving along here, this is going to be your external fuse box. The best advice I can give you about this: don't touch it. Something may go wrong with it. Something may blow up in it. It is not for you to touch. This is for the experts only, but at least you know where it's at. Again, mine's right up here up front. Yours may be back towards the back or back towards the driver's side back, but there is going to be a fuse box here. There's also a fuse box inside. Changing fuses inside, a little bit different, a little bit easier to do. You still have to know what you're doing, so I suggest, unless you're familiar with fuses, you leave it alone, leave it to the experts, but at least you know where it's at. Then finally, we're going to come around. This is where my battery's at. Batteries are all over the place. I know in my Jeep here next door, my battery is actually up front. In my Mustang, it's here and back on the passenger side. Important things to think about with the battery. Positive, red, negative, black. Not quite sure where my black cover is. I'll have to figure that out, but that's my problem. Now, what is very, very, very important, and what I suggest to everyone, because they are very, very expensive, carry a set of jumper cables with you. Do not assume that people are carrying them with them. I know in this day and age that we all have roadside assistance. If you want to sit there and wait for 2 hours for a tow truck to show up to give you a jump, or you want to wait for somebody to pull up on the side of the road and maybe help you out, that's up to you. But I strongly suggest having a set of jumper cables and somebody on speed dial that can come help you out. Now, in the old days, there were sometimes some issues with certain cars not being able to jump certain cars, but the truth of the matter is the power of the jump comes from the power of the battery. As long as you are jumping a 12-volt battery to a 12-volt battery, you will be able to jump the vehicle. You don't have to worry about having a tiny little car jump starting a big truck, or vice versa, or anything like that. Now, if I say nothing else, if you take nothing else away from this video, the most important thing that I can tell you is the proper way to hook up jumper cables, because I actually was taught an old way, which is now the incorrect way. The correct way to hook up jumper cables is you start with the vehicle that is dead. Okay? Think red, dead, red, hot, black, dead, black, hot. Meaning you hook up the jumper cable, the red jumper cable, to the red dead terminal. So on the car that's dead, you hook up the red to the red terminal. Then you hook the red to the live truck or live automobile that you're going to use to jump to the vehicle. Then you make sure to connect the black to the black on the dead vehicle, and the black to the black on the vehicle that you're going to be using to jumping the vehicle. Again, the most important thing aside from that is making sure that when you are carrying the cables, once you start connecting them, that you do not, under any circumstances, let the ends of the cables touch each other. They will short out, they will electrocute you, they will hurt you very, very badly. So just be very, very careful. And in the worst case scenario, if it all makes you too nervous, just call roadside assistance or call somebody to help you out. That pretty much covers everything. Except one of the most important things, where you put the oil. So now for my car, this is right here is where you put the oil. Now, in yesterday's video, I said that it was really important that the car be cold before you put oil in it. That actually isn't true anymore. In the olden days, it may have been true. It's not true anymore. The one thing you do have to make sure of, you can put oil in the car where the car is hot, but what you do need to do is use common sense, use a rag, use something, feel the cap, up, make sure it's not hot so that you can take it off. But once you take it off, you are able to put oil in it, and that's actually something I'm going to demonstrate for you now, because as you saw when I checked my oil, I was a little low and a little dirty, so I'm just going to throw a quick quart in just to give you an example of how to do it. Now, since my car is considered a high performance car, my car only takes 5W50 synthetic blend. So your cars may take 5W20, 5W30. It varies, but make sure that you're putting the right. It should say right there, like it says right on my cap. It says 5W50 is the only oil that should be used in the car. So that's what you have to make sure that you're putting in. So just make sure that you're doing that, because otherwise you could cause yourself some problems down the road. All right, so we've got our bottle of synthetic oil here, and so what I'm going to do is very intelligently touch the cap, make sure it's cool enough to take off, which it is. So always remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Or I guess maybe that was backwards, who knows. But one thing I want to go over is so many times people pour the bottles the wrong way. Don't pour it from the straight way, pour it from the tilted way. It pours so much easier that way and makes such less of a mess. So hang on a second here, we're gonna open it up and we're gonna give her a quart of oil. So as I was saying, needed to add a quart of oil. And one thing I wanted to point out, obviously I have my funnel in there not to make a mess, but what I wanted to point out is pour from the slanted side, not from the straight side. I see so many people do this where they try to pour it that way, they spill it everywhere, it goes all over the engine block, makes a big mess. Pour from the slanted side down. Pour it right in your funnel, goes right in, doesn't make a mess, doesn't drip on the engine block, which not a big deal if it does. It burns off right away, but you really don't want to make a mess. So we've got a nice extra little quart of oil in there for her. Like I said, she's ready to be winterized. We have a whole punch list that we do in order to winterize her so that she's in prime shape. For a 12-year-old car, she only has 50,000 miles on her. She's absolutely a garage queen from about this time of year till usually about March or April, depending on what Chicagoland weather does. But now we've got a nice quart of oil in her. And now finally, I've waited a little while. I paused it a little bit to give the car a chance to cool down. And now I want to demonstrate to you how to fill up. Obviously, you're not filling up your radiator. You're filling up your overflow with your 50/50, your antifreeze, to get it up to your level where you should be full cold. So that's actually what I'm going to do right now. As you can see, I'm able to touch the cover with my bare hands, which means it's going to be cold enough for me to open it up. And we'll pause just a second here for me to get the bottle open. Okay, so being new at this whole YouTube video thing and not having a tripod, I'm shooting all this by hand by myself. So what ended up happening is I paused so that I could fill the reservoir for the antifreeze properly without trying to hold the camera and hold the funnel and make sure it's all filled up. But I will come in and give you a close-up here. And now you can see the fluid is right up to the line. I know it's not showing very well there. It's showing a little bit better. There's the cold fill range, and you can see that it's right up to that line. So I'm good right there. And that pretty much covers everything. Hope you found something. Maybe you learned something new today. Maybe you already knew all this. But thank you for taking the time for watching it anyway. And as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Like I said, I've been with a mechanic for 7+ years, so I know cars pretty well, and he knows cars way better than me. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Have a great day.